Hello, welcome to this special Redwood Media Group podcast on navigating the crisis. I'm Linda Mariano, Director of Marketing for Redwood Media Group, and I'll be your host today. Just like you, Redwood Media Group has been monitoring the developing concerns across the United States around the coronavirus. We've taken the necessary steps to self-quarantine. And as you can see, we are, in fact, working from and recording this podcast from our homes. In bringing you this podcast, we hope it will be helpful to you to share our thoughts, our experiences, and guidance about the art business for galleries, artists, and exhibitors to help them navigate through the coronavirus crisis. Our guests today are Eric Smith, owner and CEO of Redwood Media Group, Jeff Fox, COO and CFO of Redwood, and Mark Shapiro, exhibitor manager at Redwood. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. I'd like to start by asking you for just a brief introduction of your background in the art industry, how long you've worked in the industry, and where did your passion and involvement start? Eric, let's start with you.
Yeah, I started in the mid-'80s working for Martin Lawrence Galleries. We sold Keith Haring, Andy Warhol, Lichtenstein, a lot of pop art. And then went on to work for Advanced Star about 10 years later. So I had about 10 years of gallery experience. Managed 105 people. We had 20 galleries on the West Coast that I ran. And then I learned the event business at Advanced Star, which was a big company, and really enjoyed it and peeled off and started my own business. And I've been doing that ever since. So 30 plus years in the trade show kind of art industry.
Terrific. Jeff, how about you?
Sure. Well, I've always had a real passion for the events industry as a whole. So in 2005, I had an opportunity to leave corporate America and join Eric in the events industry. So I took that, and we've been doing that ever since 2005.
And Mark, how about you?
I've been in the art business now for 35 years. I started it with Dianson Galleries, which was also a chain of galleries that handled the artist Erte, Leroy Neiman, Peter Max, and a boatload of others. I stayed with the company for 14 years, had my own galleries after that, and then joined Advanced Art Communications like Eric did. And now I'm happy to be with Redwood Media.
Well, guys, that's a lot of years of expertise. And so let's get to it. Eric, let me ask you first. Have you ever experienced a time where the business is basically shut down for an extended period of time like this?
Yeah, twice. The first time was during the Northridge earthquake, but it wasn't countrywide, obviously. That was a part of California. And but a number of our galleries were closed because of damage. So that was my first experience. The second one was obviously 9/11. So twice, yeah.
Mark, how about you?
Same for me, twice. First was the 1989 San Francisco earthquake. We had galleries in San Francisco and Carmel. What we did with our employees at the time is we did not dismiss anybody. We kept everyone on board. They worked from home. In the years of 1999, remember, there was no internet at that time. So it was a little bit of a different scenario. It was dialing for dollars, if you remember that term. It was snail mail, for lack of a better expression. But we were able to contact all of our clientele base in the San Francisco area or the Northern California area and be able to provide them with services they needed, like copies of their invoices, letters of authenticity, letters of ownership, updated letters of value, everything they needed for an insurance company to make sure they were covered with their artwork. And it didn't matter if it was a $500 client or a $500,000 client. Second one, of course, was 9/11. And I defer to Eric since I was working for him when we went through that disaster.
Yeah, I'm sorry I hung up on you that day, Mark.
Yeah, you hung up on me that day. I called from Soho, visiting a client for breakfast, and And I said to Eric, I got a problem down here in Soho. And he's smart. We got a problem all over the country. So I knew that it was a bigger event than what I was just dealing with on that street that day.
Yeah.
It's one hell of a day.
So during 9/11, for example, what did you do with your staff? How long did that last?
Well, we actually were running a major show then called Decor Expo in Atlanta. It was, to give you the scale of the show, it's about as big as 4 football fields. It was a really big show, one of the top 100 shows in the nation. And that was 2.5 weeks after 9/11. And originally President Bush had said, let's keep moving on. So we were going to put the show on, and I started receiving calls from exhibitors, their wives, husbands, how dare you, continue with this, and who's going to fly. And so we made a quick decision to cancel the event and work through the problem that way, which we did. And we'll get into that in a little bit, how we manage that.
So Jeff, with your financial background, how do you navigate through difficult times like we're having today, or even these kinds of events that Eric and Mark have been talking about from the past? What are your thoughts about helping us navigate here?
Sure. No, great question. And I'm sure that's on the minds of just about everybody out there. And specifically, I've got some underlying advice here for not only artists, but also galleries, really basically about anybody these principles hold true to. Obviously, the most important thing at this time frame is to really just kind of hold on to your cash, right? So that involves not following through any kind of capital projects, reviewing your expenses, obviously seeing what can be eliminated, what can be adjusted. For instance, working with your landlord possibly. Maybe there's an arrangement to make a short-term adjustment over the next 3 months or so. Explore your credit options. That's another thing. What you want to constantly be doing is reviewing your cash forecasts and making sure you understand the timing of your known large payments, right? Number 2, work your receivables. It is a sensitive time, so you want to be patient with your customers as well. But continue to work your receivables. You need to go ahead and get that cash coming in. Number 2, extend your payables. And what does that mean? Well, maybe typically you get a bill and you pay it within 15 days or 30 days. See if you can stretch that out to 60 days, let's say. That's an excellent tool for you to use. The other things that actually just came through here recently would be the approval of that stimulus plan. So I advise you to go ahead. There may be some small business options. We're obviously still kind of combing through the details and seeing what that means. But if you go to sba.gov, it's the Small Business Administration, you'll see a window pop up, and there's some information specifically with the COVID-19 and some guidelines for some loans and what have you.
So that's great advice. I'm going to have to take a look at my own finances, I think, and use those parameters. Eric, tell me, do you have suggestions for artists? What can they be doing during this downtime? Should it really be a downtime for them?
Well, it's hitting everyone. So, Jeff and I recently did all of those steps for our own company, and we have a 3-pronged approach. Kind of like best case scenario, mid case scenario, and worst case scenario. And when you start putting things down on spreadsheets and seeing the numbers, and it really, really, really helps. I highly suggest you do that. Just even if you're jotting it down on a piece of paper, all your expenses, and then at least you know where you are. And information is important. It educates you. But for artists, they can be painting now, building up their inventory, because things will come back. Art has been selling for hundreds of years. And, at some point, people will be buying art again. I would suggest, if they need money and they're afraid that people aren't going to be buying for the next couple months, be proactive. Go back to your best customers. The easiest way to sell a piece of art is to somebody who's already bought from you. So go back to them and let them know. Let's say you're selling pieces at $3,500. Go back and say, look, I'm happy to paint you a piece for free if you buy a piece for $3,500. And maybe you give them 2 pieces. Now that sounds a little outrageous, but it's not. It's going to keep you going. It's going to make them happy. And as Jeff suggested on the rent thing, we ran into friends of ours we went for a walk last night and ran into friends of ours, and we kept our social distancing, but had a conversation, and they have properties they rent, and they had somebody call them that said, I'm not going to be able to pay the rent for the next couple months. And their response was, don't worry about it. We'll get through this together. It was very heartwarming, and people will work with you. And everybody becomes closer together in times like this. So keep that in mind. But yeah, be open to making deals on your art, and I bet you make some sales.
Mark, you work with a lot of artists. Tell us your ideas and recommendations.
Well, I speak with artists across the United States every day, and many are say they use their social media, but most admit they're not very good at it. And as we go on in our conversations, it comes down to the artists that I work with are usually good at art fairs. They make connections with collectors. They meet designers and architects. So when they call me, they're asking me, Mark, what do I do? And, I can make some suggestions, but at the same time, at the end of the conversations, they're making their own suggestions. Some things that come to mind are like stay connected with business allies, meaning connect with positive, proactive artists and art professionals. This way, you're going to stay productive. Also, this is a great time to organize your studio. It's a great time to build up your CV, your curriculum vitae. It's also a great time to digitalize your artwork so you can take advantage of posting on your websites, your social media, and other platforms. And lastly, digitize and cataloging your present and past works is very important. This may be the beginning of your new coffee table book, or you're going to find that there's going to be other sources of revenue with your art. For instance, Shepard Fairey, all the posters he creates now, the T-shirts he has out there, the coasters, all comes from art and downtime. So use it wisely. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, good.
Good advice. So, artists, now, do you have some specific suggestions for galleries, Eric, that might be slightly different or maybe the same?
Well, as Jeff touched on earlier, number one, call your landlord if you think you're going to have a problem there with paying your rent. Look at your expenses. And then, work with your artist. Maybe you can call the artist and they can discount their work a little bit more, and you can make some deals with the customers. And as a gallery owner, calling your your best clients, you can say, hey, look, it's going to be tough for me for the next couple months. And, John Doe, the artist. And if you want to help us out, we're willing to help you out with some better pricing during this time. And you'll get some sales that way. You got to stay proactive, but you have to be sensitive in your calling too. And, hey, find that 6 degrees of separation, would be pretty easy in today's world. So.
Mark, I know you talk to a lot of galleries as well as all those artists. Any suggestions for galleries?
Sure. I guess perhaps being a gallery owner for a long time, for many years, I can tell you that your best clients, as Eric says, are the ones who already bought from you. And you contact your top collectors. Hear their stories and what they're going through. Let them know you're about to post on social media. And maybe there's something out there they would like to buy. Honestly, when you're calling these people, you are gauging their current buying mode to see what's going on in their lives. You may also exhibit all your full stable of artists, not just the one or two hot ones right now, but put all your stable of artists online and focus on their latest and greatest creations. Don't forget their newest releases. They may have limited editions out there that were planned for later in the year. They may want to release now. So this may be a good time to sell. Promote the artist by creating their videos. I think videos right now for artists are very important. I like the idea of what Instagram offers. Is called hyperlapse, and it's a time-lapse video. So people aren't sitting there watching a painter paint. They can see a time-lapse photography really quickly. It's easy to upload, and it's rather cool. So those would be my top ideas right now.
Terrific. So, guys, what do you think will happen when we move beyond the coronavirus? Eric, what do you anticipate?
Well, everybody will be getting back to work at some point. I mean, obviously China set the precedent there, and they're they're on the down slope, and they are even in Wuhan, they're riding buses and getting back to work. So that's good news. It gives you a little bit of a time frame, right? So it started in December, and we're now in March. So you can kind of do the math, compare it to what's going on in the United States. We're still on the upswing, so it's going to be a while. And that's why these steps that we're talking about today will be important over the next 2 to 3 months. I think there'll be a lot of excitement because we'll be heading into the fall season. The art business in the summer is rather slow anyway, unless you're in Maui or something like that. But, there's not too many shows in the summer. Art Basel in June, and then everybody kind of shuts down. So, we'll be seeing a lot of buying and a lot of shows moving to September and October, like Art Expo New York. And I think it'll be good. Business should come back pretty strong. How about you, Jeff?
Well, like you just said, nobody knows when that curve is going to peak there that they keep talking about. But, we do know things will return. How quick that gear up's going to be, that's the unknown. But the event, the airline, the hospitality industries, they're not going to go away anytime soon. Artwork specifically comes down a lot to disposable income, right? So there's certain, again, nobody has a crystal ball, but there's certain economic indicators that you could be looking at to go ahead and gauge and help educate yourself. And obvious ones, right? Number one, how's the stock market doing? Again, in totality, how's the stock market doing? Number two, how's the unemployment numbers going? You can check that, and that'll give you a feel for how things are flowing through as well. And then the third thing, which I mentioned earlier, and this is brand new to all of us, what kind of trickle-down effect will the stimulus incentive plan they put together, how that flows through the economy. But yeah, I agree. I mean, things will return.
Definitely.
Mark, what do you think?
Well, I look at it from the artist and the art gallery standpoint, and I feel that artists may become more self-sufficient. They'll become more independent. They're going to learn how to push themselves through the different avenues of making a living. I feel galleries are still going to need to perform online as well as at art fairs. And I think they're really looking to come back strong. So look for some great shows coming up in the coming months once this all passes.
So, Eric, tell us a little bit about Redwood Art Group and what Redwood is up to during this time.
Yeah, well, Redwood Media Group owns a couple other businesses. One of them is Redwood Art Group, and this is the timing of this is interesting because for the past 6 months we've been taking all of our websites, all of the different shows, and converging them onto one site and building a brand new site that also has a shop art button. And soon we'll be inviting all of the exhibitors that we work with over all of the shows to start loading artwork on so we can continue selling for them. We're a service company and we'll continue selling for them on an annual basis. So they do the San Diego show. They're not just at a 4 or 5 day event. and then gone, we'll continue marketing to the collectors that we have. We have well over 100,000 people in our database that are collectors and subscribers of our newsletters. And I've had this idea for a long time. Obviously, online sales is going on. Saatchi's doing a pretty good business with that. And, I think we can do even a better business with that, with the bigger events that we have, the number of collectors, and we work with a lot of professional artists. So we're really excited about that. And Linda and the marketing team will be, getting that flowing in the next 30 days. That's our most exciting thing going on. So.
Well, there's always things going on at Redwood. Thank you, guys. It's been great talking with you today. And it's clear that we will get through this together. We know it's a challenging time right now. And it's a learning curve on the part of all of us as we move from how we are accustomed to doing business and going through our daily lives to a whole new way of behaving and a whole new set of standards. Use the time constructively, and we'll continue to find ways to stay connected because we all need each other. And we're looking forward to some exciting new adventures on the horizon, and we'll stay connected to keep you informed of what's happening at Redwood. And as always, we look forward to working with you. And if you have any questions, you can always contact us at info@redwoodmg.com. Thank you very much for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.